So your ability to channel this, what was it like before working with Fabrice versus after?
Working with Fabrice was like the icing on the cake.
He's right there too. I don't mean to talk about you in front of you and
Absolutely.
just,
Surprise.
but yeah, please continue. What was it like? Yeah, before versus after.
You know, to this day, if I go however many days without practicing Shabashir,
Hmm.
I notice things.
Yeah.
I notice the emotional stuff. I notice more anxiety. I notice, well, she is, the gases are doing this, and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm usually on top of that. So there is very, very practically a consistency that if you do not keep up with, you know, it's you got to stick with it. There is a place where it builds up faster and stronger.
Hmm.
So there's more leeway here and there, as it develops. Um, but for the most part, it's being consistent. But so before I Fabrice, when did I start working with you? Was it a year and a half ago?
Something like that, I guess. I was just asking that myself.
Yeah,
So yeah, at least a year that we've been working together, probably a little bit more. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. As I've been here a year, and before I moved, and it's probably about 6 months there, so probably something around a year and a half. Um, Before that, so think about three-ish, 4 years ago, I was driving and I remember telling myself, okay, I think I've gotten my depression down 80%. And from there, it's been kind of whittling away with, you know, more qigong and more, everything else, the food and herbs and
Hmm.
all that good stuff. And yeah, by the time I started working with Fabrice, I felt like my emotional disorders were 90% or so managed. I felt like my ticks were about 98% managed, right?
That's a
Um,
whole different life.
yeah, yeah. But before I was working with Fabrice, the basis was the same, right?
Hmm.
But then starting to work with Fabrice, it was like, oh wow, this just became a lot easier. B, I'm able to do a lot more with it, and C, I feel like there's exponential amount of space for growth here. Um, so I think if I started at 15 working with Fabrice, I would have moved a hell of a lot faster.
So Fabrice, when you first started working with Nick, what did you notice initially about uh, about him physiologically, about posture, whatever? What did you notice about him, and what changes have you seen over time?
Hmm. So I'm trying to go back a little bit to our first classes. I mean, Nick had already a good background in some aspect of qigong, martial arts, dance. So he was already very connected with his body, and the information he just shared with us on how he would feel and how he started to notice through his meditative practice the different sensations starting to arise and then being able to readjust. So his connection with his body was already, I would say, had been built over what most people can do if they never tried anything before. So it's not like he was a beginner; he was already at a good level. What was interesting was to help him start to become even more aware of some of those sensations. So he already had a bit of a map in his perception, but then tweaking all of that so that it becomes a bit more clear that there's certain details that were easily missed. So the tendency of the chi to kind of rise too much and not really sink enough was one of the main elements that we worked quite a lot on.
Was that
Perceiving. It was both postural through movement, and with the combination of both, allowing the chi to really go down through the body and into the earth. So the posture is one of the elements, but even if the posture is good, but the intent is not there, it's easy to forget about it and not let it go. And usually when the intent is not quite there, the posture gets shifted as well. The notion, the common way of talking about this nowadays is mind-body connection. And in a really deeper sense, if we're able to allow our mind to observe the body, not try to control it, but just observe it, and allow the body to give us the answer to the question we're asking it. Like, okay, I feel that something is not going down as much. How can I fix that? And then just shut up and allow the body to give us the answer, rather than trying to tell the body what it should do. Then we can find that, and all of a sudden, within a simple movement of just, rising and sinking, bending, straightening the legs, bending them, and combining that with the breath and the rising and sinking of the arm, then all of a sudden we can find a way where we can sit, even if there's no chair, but feel the same sensation as, oh, I'm really resting on something solid. My structure underneath me is present, and then it's fluid enough without holding tension that everything in the body, the gasoil transmitter, the blood, the fluids, are free to move, and at the same time are in a position where they give us support. There's a certain internal pressure that starts to happen from the proper flow of all of these fluids that gives us a support in a structure. It's like if you have a garden hose that's empty, that there's no water in it, you can just bend it and there's no strength. But as soon as you turn on the pressure, then bending it becomes a lot more difficult because you have that water pressure inside. So adjusting the structure, adjusting the quietness of the mind, and allowing all of these fluids to move better in the body gives us a physiological response that allows us to be in the right place without getting any kink in the hose. So within those movements, within allowing the mind to become more aware of parts that are easy to forget about, then all of a sudden the little pieces kind of fall into place, and oh yeah, okay, this is softer. And then the rising again becomes easier also because we allowed the sinking to happen. So when things are stuck a little too much in the head and they're not moving, allowing the sinking to settle, everything drops, and then when it comes back, it creates a loop that now start to go up and down much more easily, which opens up the area that was stagnant. So that was one of the elements that we worked quite a bit on getting the sinking, which then opened up the connection with heaven or towards the sky. That really made a difference afterwards as well.
So it sounds like rather than trying to suppress it, this was about allowing the body to complete the circuit, to allow it to rise up in order to sink down again. And rather than like hoping or trying to force or really thinking down, 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 actually just allowing that to happen.
Yeah, and noticing how if a lot of it, because we're working online together, a lot of it is very visual. And within the way a person is moving, you can notice where are the stagnation, where are the blockage, and where the mind is stopping. So if someone has a preconceived idea of how they should do things and their mind stops somewhere, the whole body stops with it. It's that whole notion of the yi, the intention that guides the chi.
Mm-hmm.
If we get into a place where we let our intention stop somewhere, everything will stop with it. If we allow our mind to defocus. There's a lot of the notion when there's a lot of inflammation, when there's a lot of tension, the mind focus, we go into tunnel vision. Tunnel vision within our body also happen. If my awareness is too tight, I'll stop my own movement on my knees, for example. And then the rest of my lower body is not really connected. But if I allow to defocus and let that feeling go down to my ankle, my feet, and below my feet, then all of a sudden there's this flow that starts to happen that allow to release this pressure. So in a case of what Nick was explaining about the sensation of the tick that kind of reach a boiling point and kind of explode, instead of having a condensation and a discharge going up, we can allow this discharge to go down and have a grounding path rather than having to pop above. So we allow this connection to happen much slower, softer, to be present, so that whenever there's a start of a build-up, the return is already present because we've trained it enough. Rather than having to express this excessive amount of energy into okay, I'm going to have to expand it in a certain kind of movement, I can allow the nervous system to drain it down towards the feet and out into the earth. Really, literally like a grounding rod that we plant into the ground to release it.
I want to mention one thing with the quality of the ticks. So over time, there can be a smoothness. So if you have a tick, you know, for me, it was very much like that. There was that buildup, that stagnation, and that release. But if I was having a day where I was just ticking like crazy and I just let go, there was a smoothness to it, like it was running that track, you know, which now I say, okay, good, I can let go and let it be smooth and let it flow somewhere else, essentially, right? But yeah, much like how you explained, exactly like how you explained.
I like what you were saying earlier about feeling it drain kind of out your arms and outwards. So instead of letting it go pop, it just, oh, woo, no, the train track, we split the track and we go onto the other side and we take the exit ramp.
Yeah. No, come this way, my friend. You'll like it more.